Welcome everyone to the Driving the Business of Science podcast. This is a podcast series that we started because I found that there was a lot of areas within the life science vertical that I didn't know about and I didn't realize were there. Everybody thinks about drug development and biotech and all these other things, but there's a lot of things that happen in that same area. My name is Keith Parent. I am the CEO of Court Square. Court Square is a managed service provider. We manage IT infrastructure for life science companies. We have what's called ARC. It's an audit-ready compliant cloud environment, as well as an application called RegDocs 365, which has Life Science Launchpad and eTMF for clinical trials, as well as an EDM reference model for doing submission publishing work. And we just recently came out with a pharmacovigilance module as well. Today we have with us Arielle Smith, who is the president of life sciences for Event Cadence. And Arielle, I found out about your company and I met with some members of your company, and it was fascinated because I never knew that part of the industry existed that you belong to. So I would love to have you tell us a little bit more about what you do and all about Event Cadence.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. We are indeed a little niche area of the industry. That is for sure. But Event Cadence is at its core event technology. We started in 2017. We started in the life science sector, which of course we're going to talk about today. But I would be remiss not to throw in that, during the pandemic, we actually did start to tread into other industries completely outside of life sciences. And that was truly because during COVID, the life sciences industry was really not partaking in, events as often as they were pre-COVID. So basically, to stay afloat, stay relevant in the space, we did start working with some other industries, but now we're back to our roots and our core, and that is why I am the president of the life sciences division at Event Cadence. We still do work with other industries, but I head up the side of our business that is now hyper-focused on healthcare, pharmaceutical, and life sciences. So event tech at its core, but we're going to talk hopefully a lot more today about the KOL journey, the KOL life cycle, because we at Event Cadence are starting to see a need in the space to also evolve ourselves. And what we were in 2017 is changing for who we are and what we are today in order to show up for our clients.
Could you just explain what a KOL is? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there
Absolutely.
that may be listening to this that have no idea what a KOL is.
Yes, absolutely. A key opinion leader. Now, every account, every client of ours is going to refer to that acronym a little bit differently, but ultimately, it's an HCP, which is a healthcare provider or healthcare practitioner. Even more boiled down, it's us introducing our accounts, our pharma accounts, to their customers, which are typically HCPs.
So if you think about it, for those of us that just go to the doctor, it's your local doctor that these drug companies are trying to influence to be able to sell their drugs and use their drugs and use their drugs for their patients. So that's what a key opinion leader would be. And quite frankly, a lot of doctors will listen to other doctors. So once you start talking to doctors, that's part of what we do out there is get the right people thinking about what to use and how to use it. And when I first heard about Event Cadence and found out what you did, I really hadn't thought about it a lot. And then I thought about these healthcare congresses. Can you just talk a little bit about some of these things and these gatherings that happen in the different therapeutic areas?
Yeah, sure. So being that we are event technology, and that's the framework that we were built on, it's in support of medical conferences. So medical conferences are happening all the time, all over the world throughout the year, and they're very, very large gatherings to bring HCPs, healthcare practitioners together, third-party agencies, whether it's in logistics or strategy or marketing, and then also to bring together the pharmaceutical companies as well, who are creating and then selling the therapies or the drugs. So you have all these different party members or attendees, kind of under the same roof. And a medical conference, just like any other conference, is for knowledge sharing. It's because data is typically being released around clinical trials or something of the sort. So it's to learn about new information that is out there to the public eye to learn about. But it's also for networking. It's also to meet with those HCPs and meet with those pharmaceutical companies and to start making those connections, whether it's for business, whether it's for just marketing, whether it's for other financial gain reason, just like any other conference, to talk with people and to learn something new.
What is the size of the company that would actually attend some of these conferences? Is it just the big pharma, or is it all the way down to the startup companies?
No, it's all the way down to the startup companies. And that's why that's why the really, really large conferences are so cool to attend. So the largest oncology conference that happens in America every year is called ASCO. ASCO happens in Chicago, and it's absolutely massive. I mean, you have, I think it's around 40,000 attendees that all attend the McCormick, or all go to the McCormick Center to attend the week of ASCO. And when you walk the exhibit floor, you see every company, down to maybe like a 10 by 10, little booth where there's like a table, 2 chairs, and then you see everything scale completely up to, these massive, massive booth installations where companies will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars just to put these installations up. So it's
nothing happens in the oncology space during an ASCO week. Is that what you're saying?
It is kind of the joke too. It's everybody's like, what is everybody doing if everybody's here? But
that's pretty wild. What are some of the overlooked moments in the HCP journey that you see huge opportunity for better engagement and connection? How do you go about that, and what do you think about that?
Yeah, so part of what we do then at Event Cadence, being the event tech, is we have a whole part of our company that's dedicated to what we call this all-in-one medical congress solution. It's a platform that we provide the pharmaceutical companies. They then send their employees on site at something like an ASCO, and our software hopefully should be giving them all they need to know about why they're there. And then ultimately, the ROI for the company for sending them in the first place. There's that part of our business. Then the other part of our business, which is like the new hot topic in the space right now, the KOL lifecycle, the KOL journey. Of course, when you're at these conferences, our companies, our clients are meeting with their HCPs. They're meeting with their customers. So our platform is helping facilitate that. So now kind of setting that baseline to understand, okay, a pharma company A is using our software, Event Cadence, to talk and set up meetings with their HCP, working with all sizes of companies and working over all therapeutic areas. There's been, quite a few needs that have kind of arose in the space of KOL needs. And one of the biggest ones that I see, frankly, is what I would kind of consider the white space between these engagements. So imagine you're a pharma company, you have you know who your HCPs are, you know who your KOLs are, you're meeting with them once a year, right? Maybe twice a year, but you're meeting with them at least once a year at the same medical congress over and over and over again, year over year. Great, awesome. That interaction is incredibly useful and helpful to progress whatever the conversation needs to be, whatever the business needs. But what about all that white area in between? What about the point, meeting from point A to point B, all of those other touch points that KOL is inevitably having with the organization that isn't captured, right? So it's that area that we're going into more. We have the medical congress solution on lock. I am sure of that. We have a fantastic solution to check all these different boxes for an attendee. But now I'm putting my focus on that white area, that white space of KOL engagement, because there's so much more that we could do there to maximize the next time our client talks with that KOL or chats with that KOL.
Now, is that what you refer to when people are talking about omni-channel engagement? Is that the concept?
Absolutely. Yep.
Can you explain that a little bit more then? So there's lots of different areas, not just meeting them at these meetings. It's other things you do to reach out to them.
Completely. It's okay. So this whole concept of omni-channel and the strategy of engaging in an omni-channel approach is all of these different literal channels of how to ultimately get to that HCP. That could be through email, that could be through phone, that could be through face-to-face meeting, that could be through social media, right? Think about all the things that you come across day to day for somebody to contact you and to get you engaged in chatting with them. Same concept. But for us, we started in 2017 with one type of touch point, one type of engagement. It's the meeting that happens at a medical conference. Now you're fast forward, we're in 2025. Now we're realizing, okay, it's real, that's important, but all these other touch points that an organization is having are equally important. So for the HCP now, that could be an ad board, that could be a steering committee meeting, that could be honestly a one-off quick meeting that HCP has with their medical rep. It's just documenting all of these little touch points along the way, because it's invaluable for a company to be able to look back to and see that literal linear progression of who that KOL spoke with, maybe to an extent what they spoke about, because you get into compliance with that. But even just the visibility of who met with who and when, think about when you're interacting with a company, right? The more that company knows and has record of the past interactions that you had, it kind of makes you feel good, right? You're like, okay, yeah. I'm seen by them, I'm valued by them, I'm respected by them. I also don't have to repeat myself because they know what I said to them 6 months ago. It's the same thing.
It's funny because I know that I've been through a lot of different marketing companies and working with different marketers, and we talk about the fact that you got to do a 5-touch system before you get there, and all these other things that you do, and these little tricks of the trade to get there. What sets Ensemble? And Ensemble is your software, correct?
Correct.
What sets Ensemble apart from the other ones?
Yeah. So Ensemble is the feature set that now is starting to make all of these connections between meetings, medical congress meeting or not, anything separate. So what I truly believe makes us different, because there are a lot of other companies out there that are spinning up very similar solutions. You could easily look at a CRM that is doing a lot of that already. But what I truly feel makes us different is we're very adaptable. How we started in this space to begin with. We love to sit down with our accounts. We love to hear what their needs are, and then we love to develop it from there. There is not going to be this one size fits all omni-channel strategy approach. It's just not going to happen. Every account, every therapeutic area, every company is going to need to follow a slightly different approach to really optimizing this KOL journey concept. Well, if you're trying to fit into this like very black and white or square shaped solution, you're probably not maximizing your efforts, right? So we want to really sit down. We like to have a full discovery with all of our accounts and understand, what's going to work right off the shelf. And then honestly, what do we need to grow into with you? What do we need to develop and build in order for you, company A, to really get the absolute maximum ROI of investing in this type of solution?
When you're selling into a small startup company that's trying to get their name out there and trying to get those few KOLs to know what they do and all that stuff, versus selling to a big pharma company, tell me a little bit about your strategy from that regard and how you go about it. Maybe in that same concept, you can talk to me about how many people would a big pharma company normally send to one of these things versus a small company?
Yeah, great question, because it's a very, very different strategy. It's funny. Like, I don't know if I could say one is easier than the other. It would be easier to say yes versus no, but it's really not the case. For small companies who are typically sending maybe 10 to 15 people on site at something like an ASCO, right? So we're talking about an oncology account in this case, and yeah, 10 to 15 people on site at an ASCO. Their needs, for maybe obvious reasons, are very, very different than an account that I'm chatting with who is going to send 300 attendees on site at an ASCO. From a or I should say, now going to the 300 size company, they're very likely one of their biggest pain points is going to be around just logistics. I'm sure you can imagine that, right? 300 people have to somehow know what each other is doing in order to maximize and optimize all of their time there. That's not necessarily going to be the case for 10, 15 people. They probably know each other very well. They're probably, in conversation with each other daily. So the visibility elements to it, alignment, maybe not as important. So when I'm kind of selling this concept in to, company A, which is small, and company B, which is massive, I'm typically trying to first understand how they're already engaging with KOLs, right? Are you, what is the relationship like? And interestingly enough, company A, small company, are, either have really, really solid relationships because frankly, they have the bandwidth and they have the time to put into that relationship, or because they're a small company, they're just getting started. They're kind of still in this space where they're trying to find who their KOLs are, right? So it's one or the other, and that gives me an open door because I can work with that. I now know, okay, you're either trying to find KOLs or you have a small list, but really, really solid connections already with KOLs. That's a different, like when I'm working to show value of Event Cadence, that's a different demo. That's a different discovery call entirely. With company B, who is maybe very established in the space, the KOLs know that company B very, very well. They know what they are, they know what they're not. Then it really boils down to making sure, like I said, that those 300 attendees know what each other are doing in the space, so that 5 of them don't end up reaching out to the same KOL, but rather they know that going in, they can align and they can strategize, so that when they do reach out to that KOL, it's way more streamlined. It looks like they are one unit and they're showing up as a single entity, part of company B, not completely scatterbrained and all over the place, and like they don't know what each other is doing. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And it's funny,
Okay.
when I was listening to your response, I think about some of the shows that I go, and I just went to the DIA Global event in June in DC. And it was funny because you go to these big conferences and you go to a big, 20 by 20 booth, and you get somebody that's got 10, 15, 20 people in the booth, and they're just meeting each other for the first time because one works on the West Coast, or one's from Europe, or one's from here. And it's funny to see. You think everybody at these companies know each other, and they really don't, because it's so huge. And it is kind of funny. It did bring up a question in my mind when I think about the key opinion leaders themselves. Does your software work in the other regard? Do the KOLs ever use something like what you have for them dealing with the different companies?
So I am so glad you just asked that, because this is where I see the industry going, and I've had these conversations with some of my other leadership team, and we really want to flip this on its head. We've put so much effort into its pharma connecting with KOL. What if we reverse that equation? What if it's KOL connecting with pharma? And it's like that really, you don't see that very much at all right now. So I think something that would be fascinating in, hopefully the next few coming months, maybe year, is if we can start exploring putting more autonomy into the KOL's hands to reach out to who they want to meet with and who they want to engage with, and and just completely flip the script, because right now it's pharma reaching out to them. They're then boiled down, it's them just accepting, right? But what if that happened in the reverse? What could that look like, and what could that do for the industry?
Well, speaking of that, so how do you see the future of HCP involvement, engagement evolving, and how are you preparing your partners for that in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I really I see it as putting more I don't want to say responsibility because HCPs, KOLs, they have enough to do in their own space, but it's autonomy is probably the best word there. It's giving them the flexibility and the autonomy to reach out to who they want to meet with. It's giving them enough information to look around the space between company A, B, C, D, have all the information, and then decide who they want to engage with and for what reasons, and creating a platform to help streamline and facilitate that. That's honestly where I see this going. Is the industry ready for it? I'll be really honest. I don't know. I don't know if they are yet.
It's
um,
interesting. As we're talking, I was thinking in terms of I'm much older than you are, so I will tell you that if I think about doctors back when I was a kid, and I think about doctors today, these younger doctors coming out have so many more social media avenues to learn about things. They have more ways of
yeah,
searching for things. Just go in and do a chat GPT to find out about some drug
yeah,
product or something. So I think that even the evolving landscape of how they get their information is going to keep changing. So I
yeah.
think it's really interesting to see, have you noticed, even in the short period of time that you guys have been in business, have you seen the shift in the KOLs and what they do and how they go after some of these things? Are they going to these large congresses, or are they looking at other avenues for other things that may help them?
Yeah. Also, great question. There's been, have been a lot of reports done, especially coming off the cusp of COVID, to really understand, are HCPs wanting to be back in person, and do they like this style and format of conferences, or are they looking for a change? And you nailed it with it's generational. Frankly, it's really starting to change with the generations. um, I still think in-person meetings are frankly invaluable. I really feel that like physical FaceTime, one-on-one human interaction still can't be trumped as of right now. But yes, I agree. There's going to be so many new, I mean, omni-channel, right? That is literally the definition of omni-channel. There's going to be so many different avenues to learn and get information, and it's on both sides. It's on the healthcare pharma side, but it's also on the HCP practitioner side as well. So it will be very interesting.
I'm a firm believer in face-to-face type meetings, and I do believe that one aspect of some of these meetings is really the personal connections and the networking aspect of things. I do some shows that we go to every year, and I tell anybody that I talk with, I say, listen, I spend a lot of money on this show because it's as much the networking with the different people as it is the formal meetings that we set up and things. When you go to a social event, you go to dinner, you go to lunch, all of a sudden you're getting into just a conversation. And sometimes you never know where that's going to lead. And I think that's a huge benefit for some of these shows, because people just get to meet each other and they may never have met before. And I think that interaction helps to spur on lots of, whether it's collaboration, whether it's,
Yep.
just getting to know that somebody else is out there doing something that you're doing. I think
Yep.
it's huge.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's the last thing I'll say, but like I think the quickest way to build trust is to have an in-person interaction with that individual. I mean, you can read body language, you could hear inflection differently, and this is all boiling down to, how is one perceiving the other in order to do business, right? I mean, if you're looking at two companies and on paper everything is identical, right? You don't know which one to go with because they're both perfect, right? They're each hitting the mark on paper. Well, your next step is to then meet with someone who is representative of that company. Well, which one are you going with? You're going with the person that you trust more. You're going with the person who you connect with more. So yeah, again, I don't see these types of interactions being replaced anytime soon, but it will definitely change the landscape for absolute certain with how information again is starting to be fed in.
Well, Arielle, I want to tell you, this has been fantastic. I'm really excited about get to know what your company's all about. And I thought this was a great conversation. Thank you very much. And thank you. Do you have any last words for the audience on what about Event Cadence, about Ensemble about what to look for in the future out of you guys?
I again, I would just like to say, I said it before, I'm gonna say it again. We really, really love to hear and learn and listen from our whether you're already an account of ours or whether you're a prospective account of ours or whether you're not an account of ours at all, but you're just in the space and you have something to say about this whole landscape. We're constantly evolving. If we ever let our foot up off the gas, we're done. I mean, that's business, right? So we want to hear as many perspectives as possible. So please reach out and just chit chat. I love to hear from people. But
Well,
no, thank you, Keith.
thank you again. And I want to tell everybody out there that this is the Driving the Business of Science podcast. And again, here's one more area of the life science world that I don't know that a lot of people even know exists. And you guys fit a very nice niche area. And I thank you again for enlightening us as to what's out there. So
Yeah.
everybody, thank you, and look forward to talking to you again at some point, Arielle. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.